So it looks like YouTube is looking to get rid of the discount.
Start that one again.
Yep. So it looks like YouTube is getting rid of the dislike counter on any and all YouTube videos moving forward. So they've recently put up this update on their blog on November 10th, saying that the dislike count will be private across YouTube, but the dislike button will remain. So for any hate watchers we may have out there, get your dislikes in while they still count.
Interestingly, there are tools that allow you to see hidden dislikes.
Is there?
Yeah, there are. And so I'm wondering whether, because that you can choose manually to hide the like and dislike count on the videos. I'm wondering if they're just going to essentially, use that functionality just by default now. So you can't turn it on back, basically. But that means that these tools might still be able to show you the dislike.
Given how haphazard YouTube can be in its implementation of certain features, I wouldn't be surprised if they do just leave that open for people to just find it themselves. If you just move along, John, they posted an update about it on their I guess the YouTube video. Oh yeah, sorry. They posted an update for it about it. Go back, John. Sorry. They posted an update on their YouTube channel as well, discussing it. And the YouTube video made claims that the research teams at the company had found that groups of viewers team up to drive up dislikes on particular videos, and instead of using it as a way to say whether the video is good or not. And it's like, okay, big surprise there. We've known they do that for years and years and years.
Calling them like teams is a bit charitable. It's, communities of people who share similar interests online, who may be operating across many different kinds of platforms, have this video shared to them. They don't like it, so they go and downvote it. Yeah,
it's a pretty simple cause and effect chain right there. But YouTube's putting their hands up and going, oh no, how is this only just now happening? Oh, what a big surprise, eh?
Yeah.
And if you move along, this is something that they've been testing for a while by the looks of it. John, if you, it's this is back from April. They were talking about YouTube announced on Monday back in March. It's going to test hiding the dislike count on videos. Many of the website's prominent video content creators have spoken out against the idea, and many others have speculated that this effort is a way to protect the official YouTube page of the White House from being bombarded with dislikes.
Not just the White House, though, is it? There are many others who are part of what I guess we'll just call the establishment.
Yep.
So, I mean, like even Susan Wojcicki's own videos and things like that.
Oh, yes, we'll be getting into some of those
I
examples.
Didn't mean to jump ahead.
No worries with the spoilers. I mean, most people will probably already be aware, but they're not very well liked. So it seems that might actually be an answer that pans out when you look at the evidence. If you move along, so here are some recent videos from the White House YouTube channel. If you just scroll down so we can see it a bit clearly, this is Pete Buttigieg on the bipartisan infrastructure deal, which we've covered on the site a few times already. As you can see, dislike to like ratio not looking great right there. And if you move along again, here's another more recent one where President Biden delivers remarks on the bipartisan infrastructure deal, a lot of them in response to this infrastructure deal as well. Even worse dislike to like ratio right there.
I mean, the previous one was 3-1. This is 10-1.
Yes. Which is basically is people showing up and going like, hey, this infrastructure deal, we don't like it. And then the White House is presumably going to YouTube. We don't like that they don't like it. Make it so that we don't have to see anymore, even though presumably the channels themselves will still be able to see how many dislike the video get.
I assume
it's just how public and forward-facing that division is going to be be swept away and hidden from the plebs such as us.
And this plays into a larger pattern of behavior from YouTube specifically. You remember that was it last year they didn't do a YouTube rewind?
Oh yeah, they just decided to abandon that whole concept, didn't they?
Exactly, because the previous couple of years had been so unpopular and so unrepresentative of the wider sort of community, dare I even use the word, but just the user base of YouTube, that it was becoming apparent that it represented an increasingly more narrow section of Silicon Valley.
Oh yeah,
It's very Californian.
It was very approved creators showed up in all of them.
Yeah.
And it was for the first few years that they did them, I think it was like PewDiePie and other such creators showed up in them. And then as soon as any controversy surrounded him, they just got rid of him. It was all people, I don't know the names.
And it became increasingly unrepresentative of the people who actually use YouTube. Because I mean, like, I remember watching them. I didn't know who they were, so I just went through the comments, and it was just people in the comments. Who the hell's this? Who the hell's this? Who the hell's this?
And then one year they're just like, oh, well, let's just get Will Smith in.
Yeah, and then get Will Smith in. What? The YouTuber Will Smith. And so then they were just like, okay, we're just going to stop doing this. But that's just an admission, essentially, of defeat. It's like, look, we don't represent the people using YouTube. We represent a very small slice of people who use, from California, who use, who live in like LA, San Francisco, that sort of area. And this is what we're committing to. We're not going to try and interface with the wider culture, because the wider culture isn't like radically progressive, and we'll get it in the ear from the people who are close to us, even though the rest of the world's a giant place and they all use YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, one of the other problems with this that I find is that it doesn't seem that they're doing anything about the comments.
No.
So while it may be an attempt to hide to the general public how unpopular these videos are, all you'll need to do is just scroll down and see the
it'll
comments.
be the ratio then.
Yeah, that'll be just a different kind of ratio.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, of course.
Well, of course, the White House turns the comments off. But for most creators,
yeah, I suppose. But like there'll be a ratio effect as well that'll end up being derived from this.
I mean, next it'll just be like how many views has it got compared to how many likes it's got. Absolutely. Will be very indicative.
And I've been doing YouTube for some time now. That it seems to me about 10% of the people who watch the video will like or dislike it. Yeah. And so if it has a much, a much greater differential there, then that'll become indicative as well.
It'll be pretty obvious.
10 million views, but 500 likes. There's something going on here.
Yeah. And if we move along again, you can see iHypocrite pointing out that why might they want to hide this? The Fauci documentary trailer, because of course they unleashed that abomination on us recently. Pretty damning like to dislike ratio there.
I mean, that's a staggering like to dislike ratio.
Yes, I mean
8,000 up, 128,000 down.
Yeah, 10 to 1. Over 10 to 1 at that point, but it's still just the fact that 128,000 people felt the need to press the button in the first place. And if you just scroll down on this one, John, you can see here iHypocrite also points out a different kind of censorship that might be going on with YouTube, pointing out that when you type in the exact title of some of his videos of the Rittenhouse coverage, which is Kyle Rittenhouse Trial Highlights Week 1,
you don't get it.
Yeah, you don't get it until you get down to about 40 videos down from mainstream, what I'm sure they would describe as reputable media sources.
Yeah, but we know that YouTube are doing that. They announced it a couple of years ago that they were going to just deliberately weight the search results in favor of chosen sources, basically, which is why you get all of the authoritative mainstream media, because conspiracy videos were the most popular videos on what was the subject? I can't remember what the subject was offhand.
It was probably one of those controversial ones.
It was like climate change or something like that. But it was a couple of years back, and they just admit they were going to do it. And Susan Wojcicki was just completely upfront, being like, "Yeah, well, I felt I had to do something." It's like, why? It's not your job.
Yeah, and speaking of Susan herself, if you move along again, John, you can see that Susan herself is getting somewhat ratioed. Obviously, her channel itself is getting barely any views, but she has been uploading a bit more frequently recently. And whenever she has been uploading, it's just been getting downvoted. And for anybody who actually does find these videos from Susan's own YouTube channel, I very much doubt that they actually care at all about the content. It's just so that they can have a direct way of speaking to her, almost, because everybody knows that if you've ever tried to interact with Team YouTube on Twitter, they're either incredibly dismissive or just don't respond unless you're
left wing.
Yes, unless you're Hassan or someone in that area of the internet. So Susan herself might have some very personal reasons for not wanting people to see how much people dislike her videos.
No comments either. Oh, there are comments.
Oh, yeah, you just have to scroll down a bit for them. There you go. You can see straight away right there.
Don't you dare remove the dislikes. Oh, I think she dares, Mr. DO8.
Yep.
Sorry.
And a few other quite mean ones that we might not be able to repeat on here.
Just people, criticising Wojcicki's managerial style, which is fair because it seems to be rather disconnected from, like, what people actually think.
Yeah. And once again, if you move along, once again, just to disprove the idea that YouTube's only just noticed that this kind of behavior is taking place, you can see here this article from about 5 or more years ago when the infamous trailer for Ghostbusters 2016, the feminist reboot of Ghostbusters, dropped. People were calling out the fact that it became instantly became one of the most disliked videos on YouTube. This article just mentions, since then the hating has not abated. For the first trailer, a second one appeared to address the controversy around perceived misogyny and racism, because of course racked up more than 500,000 thumbs down votes on YouTube. This is not only more than any other trailer, it means the 2.5-minute ad earns a place on the streaming channel's list of 100 least liked pieces of content. And anybody who may have remembered this back then, the mainstream media, the establishment, immediately erupted in a fury of accusing anyone and everyone who just doesn't like the look of it, because honestly it just looked like a terrible film.
Did you not see it?
Of course I didn't.
It was
You couldn't pay me to watch that.
It was atrocious.
Who dragged you, or did you go
I
with your own?
watched it. That's fine.
Oh, okay, that's fair. That's fine. But yeah, it looked terrible.
It was awful.
Yeah, I've got first-hand proof right here that it was terrible.
I'm reasonably sure I did a video on it at the time.
Probably. But yeah, and they were just going, anybody who dislikes it is racist. I mean, Paul Feig, the guy who directed it points out here, initially called much of the negative reaction to the casting of 4 women in the leads as vile misogynist S. Of course, it might not have had anything to do with the quality of the product.
But it's what it is about the fact that people can see that this has an ideological agenda, and they don't support the ideological agenda. So, you know.
Yeah, and they expressed that through the dislike button
Yes,
at the
they
time.
did.
And a lot of comments as well. But yeah, and then you just move along. We've also got creators themselves calling YouTube out. If you just scroll up a little bit here, you can see there is a media content creator for YouTube who's a commentary guy called The Right Opinion, saying, why not give creators the option to turn off public dislike counts?
They have that option.
Yeah, which you've said they already have. Cut the BS about how you care about smaller creators. If you did, you wouldn't keep falsely taking down their videos. We all know who this is really for. Yeah. And from what I'm aware of this guy, he doesn't even really normally comment on anything particularly political, but even he's calling out, we know that this is for the establishment creators. And Team YouTube demonstrating their ineffectuality in these sorts of situations. Just appreciate your feedback and thoughts on this. We did have an option for that, but we've seen that when creators choose to turn off likes and dislikes, they can be bullied and harassed for their decision. Well, yeah.
So,
Once again, I mean, you have the option to turn off comments, but if this is the kind of attitude they're taking, it'll soon be that you just can't comment on stuff, I'd imagine, if they continue down this road.
The only way to deal with this is that, okay, well, now what about the comment section?
Yeah.
People can go and leave comments that are harassment in the comment section. Now, well, we've got to turn that off too, because otherwise they can be bullied and harassed, blah, blah, blah. And as Susan Wojcicki could see in her comment section, people saying, Susan, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Well, there's only one solution, and that's to get rid of the social aspect of social media.
And then even remember, if they do all that, most of these creators are still on Twitter.
Yeah.
People will still be able to get them on Twitter, and then it will just keep getting kicked further and further down the road. And it'll just be a case of, where will this kind of behavior, where will this kind of action end? I guess we'll just have to see.
Thanks for watching this clip from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters. We broadcast live on lotuseaters.com at 1 PM UK time every weekday. And we also have loads more content that we don't put on YouTube, such as the memes and video comments from our community. Every week, we also have new episodes of our regular series, Contemplations and Epochs. In Contemplations, Josh explores interesting and diverse topics, such as the science behind the need for fathers in the home, or why people believe in ghosts and the paranormal. In Epochs, Bo and I go on, often at length, about various events and periods in history that are particularly fascinating. We've just finished a 5-part mini-series on the 100 Years' War, which I particularly enjoyed right up until the end of it when, spoiler alert, the French won. Alongside our excellent team of in-house writers, we also commission articles from outside contributors, and Silver and Gold tier subscribers have access to an audio recording of each premium article, so you don't have to read it yourself. We interview various contemporary thinkers and entertainers, as well as host the recordings of our live events. We also have a series of premium video content on the site, which we think is particularly worthwhile, or we simply can't put on YouTube because their editorial policies prohibit reasonable discussion on the subject. Personally, I think the deep dives we've been doing into critical theory and critical race theory are most important, as we reveal the origins of intersectionality and the plan that the radical left has for our societies. We are funded almost exclusively by our subscribers. So if you'd like to join us in the work we're doing, head over to lotuseaters.com and we'll see you there.